I used to work in a mortuary. I want to tell you guys a crazy story, but it's true. Hey, it's your buddy Moo Juice Magic here. Stick with me. It's kind of a weird story. So my cousin and I worked in the mortuary together, and my job was technically titled a removal technician. So I'd go and remove the deceased from either the hospital, care homes, their homes if they died at home, things like that. Sometimes I would have to travel. Sometimes I would have to go to the coroner's office and pick up people, etc. And I would do other things for the mortuary too. But that was my main job function, was to be on call all hours of the night and on the weekends. And when someone died, I'd get suit and tied and go out there and deal with the family, deal with some paperwork, then take care of the person's remains at the mortuary. We didn't refer to them as remains back then, but I got into stand up comedy after that, and I've never gone back mentally. Regardless, my cousin and I worked there together, and I got a call one night. I was called first up, meaning I was the first person on call. I would have a second up if I was going to someone's home. So if I was going to go to a hospital or care home, I'd go by myself. Second up, if you're going to go to someone's home, they'd get the call because you would never go by yourself to a private residence. And we got a call to this place outside of Hoopa, California. Now, if you don't know what Hoopa is, if you ever heard of the Patterson Gimlin footage where they show like the Bigfoot thing, allegedly, it's out that direction. It's in that vicinity. It's part of that. But Hoopa is a reservation, a native reservation of the Hoopa Indians. And it's kind of a crazy place. And I know the Hoopa folk that I know wouldn't be offended by this because they'll be the first to tell you you don't just screw around on the res because you'll disappear. Well, we got a call not in Hoopa, but outside, kind of in between Hoopa and Willow Creek, California. And if you look on the map, you'll understand the isolation. It's mostly wood, very isolated. At the time, cell phones weren't the biggest thing right yet in the area. We did have them, but it wasn't great and service wasn't everywhere. We did have a satellite phone or some kind of a broadband phone or something, like some kind of radio phone. I don't remember exactly which it was, but it didn't work in all the spots on the mountain. So probably not a satellite phone. But I get the call. I hear where it's at, so I call up my second up, which is my cousin. And we're all suited up, and we start driving to this place, and we start making jokes on the way up. Like, wouldn't it be crazy if like this is like super far out there, and it's like a murder scene? Now this place at the time, guys, you got to keep in mind, there's no GPS for us to go on. I couldn't just put the address in my phone and go, hey, we're doing this. We had to actually stop and ask kind of directions because now we're going on, I mean, talking switchback roads up a mountain past and then down dirt roads, and you'd have to find a tree that was marked a certain way, and it wouldn't be that tree, but you need to go 2 turns down and then make another turn. It was that kind of convoluted mess, and this is the middle of the night. I think we got out there at like 10 or 11 at night at least. By the time we got the call, we probably got out there closer to 2 in the morning, or 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, something like that. So we probably got the call a little early, 9:30, 10 o'clock, because it took a while to get there from the town we live in. Well, we get out there, and both of us had this weird sensation. We pull into the house or into the property and down this dirt driveway, and it's all trees above. There's no 100-foot defensible space for fire around the house. The house is in the middle of the freaking trees, and it's hard to see the house. So we have our main lights on, and the power to the house was off, and 2 family members were there to meet us by the time we got there. And they're like, yeah, it's weird. The power's out. We don't know what happened. We think he's had some health issues. We think he died, blah, blah. And so my cousin and I are walking to the door, and we have this really big flashlight that we're carrying, one of the ones with the handle, like the 10 million lumens or whatever it is. And we light it up, and I look at the door frame, and I see the door frame's busted in a weird way inwards. And I kind of nudge my cousin and do the shoulder thing because the relatives have walked in ahead of us, and I'm already sensing something wrong. And we walk in and we go across this living room, and there's it's kind of like a double level, but it's all in one room, split level, but in one room, and it's like one step down. And when we see the fellow, he's laying out, face down, his hands are sprawled like this, and there is a tray that had his medication on it, or like a cardboard box that had obviously held his medication. Some was still in it, but the rest of it was scattered all over the floor in front of him. Like he went forward and it went out like that. So when he went, his hands did one of these and dove out in front of him. It wasn't like this. He sprawled that way, went forward, they went forward, and everything scattered. And we looked at each other, and the family's like, yeah, so this is how we found him. And really, really nonchalant, but kind of creepy vibes. And so I said, hey, I got to talk to my cousin. We're going to go back to the car and get some paperwork. And we go back out to the car and we look at each other and we're like, looking to make sure they can't hear us. We're like, dude, this is a fucking murder. He's like, we're both in total agreement. We've just witnessed a murder. And then now we got to figure out what to do. So I can't remember which one of us we decided that, well, A, we're not going to go and try to make a phone call. And here's why, because we tried to look at the phone and there was no service. We could not get it even on the phone with the van, which is that big range phone I was talking about. And we're like, okay, we have a couple options here. We could leave the body and try to get the coroner and risk a lot of other things going on here because this is obviously something wrong. One of us could go and try to get service and make the call, leaving the other one behind to watch the scene. Because at this point, we're not really supposed to leave the deceased there. And there's no way for us to do that if one of these relatives were involved to make sure they wouldn't mess with the crime scene. So we're going through all this. Now, my cousin was a military policeman. So he's a little further in the game than I am with this investigatory stuff. I'm just kind of a law nerd. At one point, I wanted to go into forensics. And I got into reading about all that way back in the day. Like talking about all through high school, I was trying to figure out how to do that. And so I had some idea, but no practical, experience. Anyway, we've decided this is what we're going to do. We're going to remove the body and destroy the chain of evidence and destroy the crime scene. And we're just going to take the word of the family on it. And we're going to just take them to the mortuary. Problem solved. And we'll call the coroner's office. We'll tell the manager in the morning, and she'll call the coroner's office, and we'll go from there. Because there's no way this crime scene's not getting disrupted at this point. And we're not going to be able to, have one of us go and leave the other one there with possibly two murderers. Now, both of us could defend ourselves. Neither of us were armed, and you don't know if they're armed or if there's more people. Too many unknowns. So we take the person the same way we would anyone else. The family's super nonchalant about everything, but a little weird. They filled out the paperwork they needed to fill out. We got everything filled out. Take them back, and we went, okay, well, that was, we're probably overthinking it. And, those things that get to you, because now you're used to being around dead bodies. That's not normal. But it never really gets as normal as you think. At this point, you start getting those weird nighttime drive-back conversations. If you were alone, you'd be worried this guy's going to pop back to life. It's so surreal what you just went through. But now we're talking about the possibilities, and then we get down to the point where, look, we're fictionalizing this enough where, this is probably not a big deal. So we do all we're supposed to do back in the mortuary, put them in the fridge, get everything signed out, and we go home, go to bed, go to our separate homes in bed, obviously. We're cousins. We're not sleeping together. That's weird. And we get a call the next morning. You guys need to come back to the mortuary immediately. We get there, and our boss is just like, yeah, you guys need to go and take him to the coroner's office and go back with the coroner and check the crime scene. My cousin actually ended up having to deal with that part of it. I didn't have to because of something. I had to do something else. Maybe there was a service going on or something I was helping with. But he had to go back and go through all the rigmarole and come to find out, yeah, dude was absolutely murdered. I don't know if they ever solved it. So that was the time that my cousin and I ruined a crime scene and possibly a murder investigation. You guys ever seen a dead body? Let me know in the comments below. I'm your buddy Moo Juice Magic. And if you like more mortuary stories, I've got a lot, and they're all pretty weird or hilarious, or you'll not like me as much when I'm done telling it. Anyway, nothing necrophiliac. That's just icky. I'll talk to you guys later. I love you in the face, and I'll see you next time.